Bansang China, may bakuna na laban sa COVID-19. Pilipinas, nasa priority list. Sa naging press briefing ni Presidential Spokesperson Harry Roque noong October 22, dito ay kinumpirma ng Ambassador ng Pilipinas sa China na si Ambassador Chito Sta Romana na malapit nang matapos ang Phase 3 trial ng bakuna laban sa COVID-19. Ayon sa naging pahayag ng Ambassador, ang nasabing gamot ay naipamahagi na umano sa mga frontliners ng China, maging sa mga nagtatrabaho sa mga paliparan at mga pantalan nila, at maging ilan sa komunidad ng nasabing bansa. Kasalukuyan ding umanong sinusubukan ito sa ibang lahi upang masiguro na hindi magkakaroon ng adverse reaction bago simulan ang mass production ng nasabing gamot. Ayon din sa kanya, ang magiging balakid lamang umano ay ang magiging paraan ng distribusyon dahil nangangailangan umano ng pasilidad upang mapanatili ang pagiging epektibo nito. Samantala, siniguro naman ng Secretary of Budget and Management na si Secretary Wendell Abisado na may inilaang pondo ang ating gobyerno para rito. Siniguro rin ni Ambassador Chito Sta Romana na nasa priority list pa rin ang ating bansa na mabibigyan ng COVID-19 vaccines.
Magpatuloy, would like to welcome Ambassador Chito Sta Romana. Ambassador, thank you for joining us today in our press briefing. Sir, ano na pong balita? Ano na pong mga stages, ang mga bakuna at ano na pong hakbang na nagawa natin para masiguro na ating mga kababayan magkakaroon po ng bakuna pag natapos na po ang development nito sa China? The floor is yours, Ambassador.
Thank you very much for having me, Secretary Harry. It's a pleasure to be here. What we're doing here, what the Philippine Embassy in Beijing is doing is really facilitating the contacts between DOST and DOH and the Chinese side regarding the vaccine. As you know, the Chinese right now are in the advanced stage, nasa phase 3. They have at least 3 to 4 vaccines that are now being tried in China. They reported yesterday that, or the other day, that one vaccine is about to complete the phase 3 trial, and so far the results have been fairly good. There's been no report of an adverse reaction. There is another vaccine that is under phase 3 trial and is also undergoing international experiment in Brazil and the UAE. And in the UAE, or in the Middle East, as far as I know, there are some Filipinos, over 1,000 Filipinos that have been involved in the phase 3 trial. This is important because the vaccine being developed in China have been tried among Chinese patients or among Chinese citizens. But it is important to try it also with other citizens of other countries. That is why the Chinese have a joint program with Indonesia. Some Indonesian patients are being treated, are undergoing this phase 3 experiment. In Brazil, there is quite a number of Brazilians undergoing it. So they're trying it with different nationalities. In China, they're already using the vaccine on an emergency basis for their frontliners. So lahat ng frontliners, particularly in the hospitals dealing with COVID, are already undergoing or have already been given the vaccine. The same with airport personnel, those dealing with customs and those dealing with sa coastal ports, because in China, basically under control na yung local community transmission. Their problem really is how to deal with what they call imported cases. Those coming in from abroad, Chinese or foreigners bringing in the virus, and that's why very strict yung testing and quarantine for international arrivals. But back to the vaccine. So they hope to go into mass production soon. And so the question is yung distribution. As you know, the Philippines is one of the priority countries. Now, this was an agreement during the phone conversation between President Duterte and President Xi, and this was reiterated when Secretary Locsin was here and had an exchange or a conversation with State Councilor and Foreign Minister Wang Yi. However, distribution will be a challenge, even if we're in the priority list. One, because the Chinese companies we have been in contact with have said that we need, or the recipient countries should make sure that they have the capability for receiving the vaccine. Kailangan kasi yung tinatawag na cold chain storage. No? These vaccines have to be stored in the conditions, freezing conditions. Otherwise, if exposed to a tropical weather or to normal weather conditions, the vaccine could lose its effectiveness. No? So, of course, these are matters for the experts to deal with. But basically, to point out that from our discussions with the Chinese pharmaceutical companies, they pointed out that the next challenge really is the distribution and the deployment of the vaccine. Hopefully, mass production and distribution will happen in the near future, no? as early as November or December in terms of production, and it will depend on our capability to receive the vaccines in terms of our facilities, no? In terms of distribution. So the prospects are bright in terms of a breakthrough in vaccine. At least, as far as I know, in China, there's a possibility for 1 or 2 vaccines that will be approved here soon. And of course, they have to undergo their own requirements in the Philippines, no? Because the Philippines, you have to clear FDA requirements, DOST, DOH. So this is something I think that these agencies are already preparing for. So that's what the update I can give you in terms of the vaccine development and the vaccine situation here in China.
Maraming salamat, Ambassador Chito. So, lilinawin ko lang po, kasi po dito sa Pilipinas, paulit-ulit sinasabi ni Presidente, the Chinese have the vaccine. So, parang totoo po, no? They already have the vaccine na binibigay na nila sa kanilang mga frontliners. Tama po ito, no?
Yes. As a matter of fact, beyond the frontliners, there have been reports in Chinese media that certain areas in China, some local governments are already distributing it or deploying it for certain citizens. No? So merong nangyayari dyan in a city near Shanghai, in East China, na nag-uumpisa na yan. And certainly the company executives and employees of the different pharmaceutical companies involved in the vaccine development, they have volunteered to be part of the different phases of the trial, at halos lahat yan na-vaccinate na rin.
Ang second clarification ko po, sinasabi rin talaga ni Presidente na may kasunduan sila ni President Xi na meron po tayong prioridad. Meron po talaga tayong prioridad sa distribution ng vaccine na galing po sa China.
Yes, that is true. This was reiterated during the recent visit of Secretary Locsin, and if you look at the DFA statement, this was mentioned. We are among the priority countries. Of course, ASEAN in general is included here, but the Philippines in particular. Of course, this means that we have to get ready for the distribution and deployment of the vaccine, and that is why these Chinese pharmaceutical companies that are going to manufacture these vaccines are already have been telling us that what is required really is the cold chain storage facilities around the country or certain strategic areas around the country. Kasi when the vaccine had to be handled very well, otherwise before they can be deployed.
Okay. Naku, napakabuting balita po yan. Maraming salamat, Ambassador Chito. And please...
Let me ask the good Secretary Avisado. Secretary, Ambassador Chito Santa Romana mentioned the need for cold chain storage facility to house the vaccines. Will we have the funds for that? Should the vaccines be delivered to us?
Surely, as the sun rises in the east, there will be funds for that because the President will never allow that we will run short of the requirements to make sure that we have the storage facilities for all of these vaccines po.
Kayo mga kachika, ano ang reaksyon nyo sa balitang ito? Comment nyo lamang po sa ating comment section. At please, wag po sana nating kalimutan mag-like at mag-subscribe. Hanggang sa muli, maraming salamat po sa inyong panonood.